anything for this show yesterday, but he's back today. He's out of the butter box. Kevin Donahue and Anthony Walker will be here to help me with a conversation we're going to have with former ESPN broadcaster, former NFL player, former Georgia Bulldog All-American David Pollack is going to join us, talk about his new book, talk about things going on in the sports world. That'll be in about 30 minutes. And the back end of that, any of you guys that follow David Pollack knows, man, he's fearless, he's bold, he has a faith that he talks about. And so we're going to include some Kevin and Anthony and Tennessee Harmony into that part of the conversation. When I'm done kind of talking to David Pollack about sports, we'll talk about our walk and we'll talk about his new book and things he's involved with in trying to inspire and lead kids a positive direction. Shemeka Michelle, of course, will be here. We'll circle back with Steve Kim a second time after the A block of this show or the beginning of this show. So one last thing before we get rolling here, because trust me, today's topic is awesome. It's about the WNBA. It's about Caitlin Clark. I don't care if you don't like it. It's amazing. It's interesting. It's fascinating. It speaks to the larger culture at large. But the number one thing you can do if you like me, like this show, like what we're trying to accomplish on this show, is make sure you join the Fearless Mission. Go to fearlessmission.com, become a subscriber, use the promo code Fearless40 to save $40 on your yearly subscription. That's the best thing you can do to support this show, and I need you to do it because YouTube and the algorithms and all that stuff, they're directed against us. Join the Fearless Mission. Go to fearlessmission.com, become a subscriber. Thank you so much. Here's why you should do it. Because I'm the only guy, and Steve Kim and Butter and this group, that would have this conversation about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA. And we want to make sure, I almost forgot to thank my great friends at First Cup. Today's episode is brought to you by First Cup, a Christian-owned Patriot coffee company that stands for core values, family, and building community across the nation. First Cup's freshly roasted beans are delivered in ground or whole bean pods in bulk. Go to firstcup.com, use the promo code FEARLESS, and save an additional 10% on your order. And if you subscribe, you'll save another 10% for the life of your subscription. Thank you, First Cup. Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has a new problem. Many of you, I'm sure, didn't watch, but I'm sure you've been informed by now. The New York Liberty took control of the WNBA Finals last night with a logo three-pointer from Sabrina Ionescu, another white girl. She just had, other than any moment not involving Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu's three-point logo shot with 1 second to play last night, which gave the Liberty the game, I believe, 80-77. The game was tied. She hits a logo three. And it's a legitimate logo three. She channeled her inner Caitlin Clark and knocked down a dagger three to win game 3 of the WNBA Finals. It's the only thing not involving Caitlin Clark that will be remembered about this WNBA season. The New York Liberty are now on the brink of winning their first WNBA championship. And if they do, now that they're up 2-1, it will be because of this logo three shot by Sabrina Ionescu. And those of you watching, if you're not listening, Sabrina Ionescu is a white girl. And on WNBA standards and just most humans, she's a relatively attractive white girl. The WNBA has a white girl problem. It's a league that wants to celebrate Asia Wilson and all the other black women in the WNBA. They want to celebrate the black women that aren't even in the WNBA anymore. They want to celebrate Cheryl Swopes. They want to celebrate Maya Moore. They want to uplift and celebrate Lisa Leslie and everybody, Teresa Weatherspoon, everybody that played long before Caitlin Clark and everybody that's black now. It's a black worship league. And Caitlin Clark is the face of that league, and she's not black, and they have a problem with it. And now, Sabrina Ionescu, who's a very good player. She's participated in a lot of the black worship. But she is now the second most memorable player from this season. And the New York Liberty are on the brink. It's a best-of-5 series. They're up 2-1. They just stole a game in Minnesota. I went into this series, someone that watches the WNBA, thinking the Lynx were going to win this series. But as it turns out, now up 2-1 in a best-of-5 series, it looks like the team that starts 3 white girls, Breanna Stewart is the New York Liberty's best player. Sabrina Ionescu is their second best player. And they have a third player. I'm not sure if I don't know enough about the team to call her the third best player. And I can't even pronounce this girl's name, but she's a rookie and she's white. And I think she finished third in Rookie of the Year balloting. Let me double check myself here and I'm trying to give myself time to work on if I can spit this name out. You guys know how terrible I am with names. What the heck? Here we go. Box score. Is it Lonnie or Fibich? Leonani? Leonie. Leononi Fibich? I don't know. She's a rookie. She's from Germany. She's white. She's had a good season. She's gonna be their third best player if she's not already. But they got 3 white girls in their starting lineup. The white girl team is going to win the WNBA Finals. This whole season was built around exalting and celebrating and putting A'ja Wilson on a pedestal. Oh, she's the greatest women's basketball player of all time. She just had the greatest season any woman's ever had. She is Shaquille O'Neal and Wilt Chamberlain and Magic Johnson rolled into one. She played for Don Staley. She's awesome. She's good. They've won back-to-back titles. They got bounced out of the playoffs by Minnesota. And now, I believe it. No, it was Connecticut. They got bounced out of the playoffs. Doesn't matter about who. They got bounced out. They didn't make it to the WNBA Finals. And lo and behold, Breanna Stewart and Ionescu are about to win the title. And Ionescu's hit the most important shot not fired by Caitlin Clark in WNBA history. The WNBA has a white girl problem, and here's why I say it. The Wall Street Journal today has an extensive article on this big, bold year in the WNBA's big, bold, record-breaking year. And they got Angel Reese and A'ja Wilson on the cover of it. And they're interviewed and talked to extensively in this article. There's no possible way you can tell the story of this big, bold year in the WNBA and leave out Caitlin Clark. She's mentioned a little bit in the article, but they're leaning into A'ja Wilson and Angel Reese. Angel Reese didn't make the playoffs. Angel Reese is one of the worst offensive players anyone's ever seen play basketball outside of their 6th grade gym class. And A'ja Wilson, flamed out in the playoffs, is pretty unlikable, likes to be preachy, and wants to tell white women how black women should be celebrated. She can't sell Nikes. This is the entire system is trying to look at Angel Reese and A'ja Wilson, and on the court, there's these white girls saying, watch us knock down these shots. Watch us win these basketball games. Watch us do things you haven't seen done before. The WNBA's got a white girl problem, and it's not going away. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. The Wall Street Journal, which is supposed to be a conservative newspaper, they've been talked into this probably by Nike and whoever else is pushing all the black girl worship stuff that, hey, let's do a big story on the WNBA's big, bold year, and let's don't picture Caitlin Clark and let's write as little about Caitlin Clark in this article as possible. Let's try to pretend like it was something other than Caitlin Clark. And it's Angel Reese showing up in a G-string at all these parties. That's what's made the WNBA popular. It's A'ja Wilson knocking down all these 10-foot face-up jumpers. That's what's made the WNBA popular. It's a joke. They got a white girl problem, and it's getting worse. Steve Kim, welcome back to the show. I know this isn't, it is actually this aspect of it. You don't like watching the games, but you love talking about all the drama and the machinations behind the scenes and all the, how can we cater to Angel Reese and A'ja Wilson? But I'm telling you, last night, the WNBA, Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner, everybody just, oh my God, why did this white girl hit this shot? What? Oh, this is terrible. We couldn't have checked some black girl in to knock down this shot. They're embarrassed by what's good. They have a white girl problem. The white players are playing too well in their league, and it's bothering them.
You know, when I try to buy my supplies for the office, I go to my local CVS or my Rite Aid. I can't find whiteout anymore, seriously. It turns out the whiteout is now in the media when it comes to the WNBA. And Jason, this would be akin to, let's say, doing a history, an oral history, or writing a book on Apple and not mentioning Steve Jobs, or doing the real history of Nike and not mentioning Steve Prefontaine or certainly Michael Jordan. I don't get it. The issue is, unless you go out there and capitulate like Paige Beckers or whatever her name was with that award, basically she gave the, hey, I want to be invited to the cookout speech and I'll bring the potato salad, professing fealty to these women, you're not going to get respect. But again, this is why people say we don't hate the mainstream media enough. You think you do, but you don't.
No, we don't. Here's the other problem is the black girl. Let's take the cover girls for the Wall Street Journal. Last week, it resurfaced again. A'ja Wilson telling Kelsey Plum about, white privilege and blah, blah, blah. And, A'ja Wilson, again, we've talked about on this show, some of her friends. A'ja Wilson's pretty unlikable and pretty mean-spirited, despite all the dressing up. Her BFF is some dude that pretends to be a woman named Dolores that harasses people online, and they want to do all this. Well, I face death threats, and everybody's out to get me. And turns out it's A'ja Wilson's BFF doing a lot of it. We got unlikable. Angel Reese, really unlikable. I mean, just really unlikable. And trust me, it's hard for most men to dislike a woman who puts her butt on display everywhere she goes. And she's got a pretty big one and a good one. But she's unlikable. And yesterday, we got another example, I think, of her on her own podcast complaining about how she can't afford an $8,000 a month rent payment. It's the epitome of first world problems. It's the epitome of first world stupidity. It's the epitome of just Angel Reese not being well thought out. I want to play this clip of Angel Reese talking about how the WNBA can't pay her bills.
I just hope y'all know the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills. Literally. I'm trying to think of my rent for where I stay at. Let me do the math real quick.
It might cover that. Yeah, it covers that. It definitely covers that.
What is I don't even know my salary. 74? I don't even know my salary. Does it? Let me see. You don't even... Yo! I'm living beyond my means. It's like... No, my rent is more than that. It's $8,000. I'm living beyond my means, like y'all think.
Unlikable. I'm just sorry. She's just out of college. She's 22, 23. She can barely hit layups. She's getting paid $74,000 for the WNBA. She's got, I'm sure, endorsement deals into the seven figures. So that's why she's laughing about this. And like, she's bragging how much money she makes, and she doesn't need her WNBA salary. And I live in an $8,000 a month apartment, blah, blah, blah. She's 22, 23 years old. And again, these are the same WNBA women and same black women that want to be pro-social justice, and they're looking out for black people and blah, blah. She's mocking working class people. I got out of college, Steve, at 23, and I made $5 an hour at the Bloomington Herald-Times. And it was part-time work. I didn't get 40 hours a week. Most people don't come out of college and make $74,000 a year, but that's how spoiled and entitled. And so these players they're trying to build around, they're unlikable, Steve.
You know, it's times like this where I think to myself, where have you gone, Kevin Samuels? You are really, but thankfully you're there to fill the Nikes there. First of all, let's unpack all of this. The LSU math department, I really hope she wasn't a math major. Look, I'm an Asian. I'm not even good at math. I knew 12 times 8 is 96,000. Now, if that doesn't cover any of your bills, a couple points here. The average American salary I've read is anywhere between 45 to 50,000. The WNBA season is not 12 months. In fact, it's not even half a year. The sense of entitlement that somehow that you're underpaid in a league that has never turned a profit and is subsidized by men. Yeah, men it's just mind-boggling to me. And the other thing is, you're right. She really comes off. If I am these other players in the WNBA that do not have her profile, I think to myself, if you have any self-awareness, Caitlin Clark is not my problem. She's not my enemy. She is. And by the way she's been dressing and showing up. All right, if you need help paying rent, is a Angel Reese OnlyFans coming up next? I mean, it's kind of the next step. Can't pay the bills, got to pay the rent. Showing a lot of skin. She looks okay for now. You know, other words, and other people have called it only rebounds. Ta-da-ta. All right, now, about A'ja Wilson. I got to get into this.
Hold for 1 second. Hold for 1 second. Hold for 1 second, Steve. Because sometimes, man, you need to slow down. And you need to appreciate the greatness of some of the things you say and clarify and belabor them and finish that point. You've made an excellent point here in terms of who is the real problem. Yeah. Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese? Because, again, Angel Reese is undermining the league with her unlikability. The reason why people are jumping on board and everyone's is they finally found a player who's halfway likable in Caitlin Clark and who doesn't rub their wealth, privilege, and entitlement down everyone's throat and force it on like I'm supposed to be special. You've made an outstanding point that Angel Reese is the one that is going to hurt people's pocketbooks while Caitlin Clark is filling up people's pocketbooks.
I mean, Jason, every time these ladies do not have to go on Frontier and Spirit and bring their boxing gloves and their headgear, they should do the Barry Bonds home run point. Or literally, I've said this before and I'll say it again. They should get a fathead on every plane of Caitlin Clark's mug. And every time they sit down, touch that face, just like a football team. Like, we will play like champions. Just touch that face, like just give it a thumbs up. Like, way to go, white girl. Thanks. Now, I want to get to A'ja Wilson. If you want to get to the whole cultural racial thing, I want to say this as a crouching tiger. My continent is not your name, Asia. By the way, have you ever noticed none of these girls named Asia are ever Chinese, Japanese, Chinese? They're not even ever Thai. I don't get it. I thought for years her name was Ajay. I really did. That's how little I knew. But on a serious point, when I began this WNBA journey, this fearless journey with Jason Whitlock, I didn't know who Miss Wilson was. I really didn't. But as I was force-fed this information after years and months of browbeating, this is what I learned about Miss Wilson, that she's the best player, that she's iconic. She's going to be a Hall of Famer. And you look at her numbers, you're like, wow, she is the best player. She must be given credit for that. But Jason, you know what I've really learned, though, as I delve deeper into this and I get to know her more from a periphery standpoint, wow, she's unlikable. That's the thing that I've learned, that she is more and more unlikable. She's abrasive. She's a race peddler, and she actually hurts the cause as the best player in the league. That sounds familiar, like another basketball player, but that's for another segment, Jason.
She's a reflection of Don Staley and Don Staley's leadership style, worldview, all of that. That's who she played for. It's not all Don Staley players. Again, Aaliyah Boston has a whole different vibe and mentality and energy around her. But A'ja Wilson certainly has this entitlement. They gaslight and drag other people into it. But Steve, I'm telling you, last night, a problem. That was a really good game. The Liberty came back from a 15-point deficit, and Sabrina Ionescu hit a logo three that will be, I mean, it's similar. She's not the same player as Michael Jordan, but it's similar to Michael Jordan over Craig Elo. There have been no moments in the WNBA that have ever mattered because no one was watching. There was a tree falling in the wood. And so everything that happens in 2024, it has a heightened importance. Because of what Caitlin Clark has done, there's now eyeballs and attention, and we're interested. And anybody that watched last night was like, oh, that was fascinating. And to see this girl knock down this three and win this game, it's a moment we're going to remember. I'm going to remember that three-point shot. I'm not saying everybody here watched it, but that highlight will be played over and over and over again. And it's like,
all right,
all we'll have from these other guys is bitching and moaning.
Wait a minute. I got to ask a serious question here. The aesthetics of the show, I care about that. If they go on to win the title, will Sabrina's jersey join the Wall of Fame? Or will there be a mural in the back, Jason, of that particular shot? Are we doing that?
No, we're not. Because Sabrina
Caitlin.
does a little bit too much.
Caitlin.
Yeah, she bows down to the BLM crowd. I'm not fully on board with her, and so no, she won't. But you got to.
Yeah, I got
as the resident white guy in here,
resident.
You're carrying this show and not getting the credit for it, Butter. You're no different than Caitlin and Sabrina. Go ahead.
I got you covered. I got two quick statements and then sort of a question. One is, where does a guy got to go to see these Angel Reese G-string pictures? Because I haven't seen them.
They're everywhere.
It's called Twitter.
Respect.
It's called X. What have you been under a rock?
I'd like to see what we're dealing with here. I need some more evidence before I levy an opinion on that.
Butter, let me speak for the chat. I'm sure this is in the chat. You ain't built for Caitlin. You ain't built for Angel Reese, bro.
Hey, you don't know.
She's on record. 6'3" or taller.
I don't know how I got the name Butter.
Yeah, I'm an Asian guy. Neither am I, Jason, admittedly.
I got the name Butter for some good reasons. Two, it sounds like you need Drew Rosenhaus negotiating your contracts back in the day. $5 an hour. Drew would have never settled for that. My real point, though, is that I don't think they have a white girl problem. I think they have a balance sheet problem. And I'm not totally sure that Caitlin Clark would have this level of interest in the whole thing without this hate, without what's going on. I don't know if her story isolated alone, if there wasn't, we would have this much talk and this much excitement around it. So I actually think it kind of promotes the league, similar to when we talk about the NFL refereeing or certain. I think this promotes the league in a great way. It keeps the chatter up. Not as good without it.
Okay, Butter, I can agree with you on that, but the Wall Street Journals shouldn't be part of that hate. Let the players hate, let fans hate, but the Wall Street Journal, if they're telling the story, hey, what went on here in 2024, you got to tell it through the lens of Caitlin Clark, not A'ja Wilson and Angel Reese.
I think the Wall Street Journal is mirroring what's been going on in general with this league and in general Butter, with the coverage. I don't think they're isolated.
Butters, yes. I basically really disagree with that point because those fine people that have been following Caitlin Clark since her days at Iowa, that just really like her, I don't think they necessarily enjoy being painted as racist because they wear a 22 Iowa Hawkeye jersey. They didn't ask for anything. They like this one player, which is their right, whether she's white or not. The same attendance figures for all of the Indiana Fever games would be what they are with or without this ancillary coverage, which I feel to be very, very one-sided.
I don't disagree with that. I think that how much of it is racist and how much of that is actually real, or that's just also, as we've seen with the way everything is covered. You talk about Donald Trump being polarizing, right?
Yeah.
Well, we say Caitlin Clark is polarizing. It's a manufactured emotion and feeling. I don't think most people think of this as the racist coverage and that her fans are racist. You have a few people in the media that make a living off of calling everything racist. I don't think it's as widespread, and I don't think of it as much of an issue as we're led to believe.
Butters, we've had WNBA players actually go out there and whine about certain fans. It's not just the media. The players that play against Caitlin Clark have actually alluded to it very clearly. So it's not just something manufactured by the media.
And on as it relates to Donald Trump and polarizing, Donald Trump is polarizing. I'm polarizing. I'm outspoken. I take really strong positions on issues that people care about. I'm fine people calling me polarizing. I think I'm more than that, but I'll just have to, I'm outspoken, so I've opened up the door for them to call me polarized. I think Donald Trump doesn't mind being called polarizing. Caitlin Clark just goes out and hoops. Now, does she sometimes yell at the refs too much for my liking? Yes. Did she get into a little flopping? Yes. But mostly she just goes out there, jacks up threes, throws great passes to her teammates, plays with a passion and a style that, she hasn't done anything to really be polarizing. And that's where it's unfair. The media has done this. Her opponents have done this. And it's like it's a weapon, too. There is a consequence to turning her into a polarizing figure. They're trying to wear her out mentally with an unfair attack. Is there something wrong with my fan base? Have I inspired the wrong things in my fans? Should I be bowing down and kissing the rear end of these black women? No, she shouldn't, and hopefully she'll stay the course. But I do think there's a consequence to what's being done to Caitlin Clark that's dangerous. Go, Steve?
Jason, let me make a point about Larry Bird, who I guess, because he was the great white hope of the 80s in the NBA, I tell you what the difference is between these players and those players. Outside of Dennis Rodman, who made a real stupid comment and Isaiah got dragged into it, take that away. Every other player in the league, whether they're black or white, was like, man, this guy's unbelievable. They used to play up the fact that this white boy could play, and it was said with the greatest respect and admiration. And they're like, this guy actually talks more trash than any of us, and he's the best at it. And we actually came to really admire the guy. They were heated rivals. In fact, the only guy that really didn't like Larry Bird was another white guy, Bill Laimbeer. To this day, they still do not like each other, which I completely respect. But those players actually paid tribute to the skills of Larry Bird. And I never heard of them, even though Larry was from Boston and there is a history there. None of those players ever whined about Larry Bird's fans having a certain political or racial agenda. I just think the WNBA players across the board, they are completely and wholly unlikable for the most part.
Yeah, and throw in the Tiger Woods analogy. Yeah, Fuzzy Zeller, a couple of guys early on had a hard problem with Tiger Woods. They got over it real quickly. As soon as they started seeing the purses go up and the benefits of Tiger Woods, everybody hopped on board with Tiger Woods. And for the most part, stuck by him when he got jammed up and destroyed his image. They were still appreciative, like, man, we would have made a lot of money with Tiger Woods. He's really other. I don't understand why these women won't get on board. I don't understand why the league won't get on board. I don't understand why Nike won't get on board. I don't understand why the Wall Street Journal won't get on board. And I say I don't understand, but I do understand. They've all bought into this racist DEI garbage, and they think they're going to score brownie points and bonus points by telling lies and promoting unlikable women like Angel Reese and Asia Wilson. Steve, I got to cut off here. We're going to circle back to you because we got David Pollack coming up, and I want David to make sure we have enough time, talk some sports with David Pollack, former Georgia football great, former ESPN broadcaster, a believer a guy that bows to our Lord and Savior, King Jesus. Can't wait to have David on. He's coming on in just a second. We'll talk some sports with him. We'll talk about his new book. We'll catch up with David Pollack here in a second. Before we do that, I want to talk to you guys that are like me, are looking for alternative sources to grow your wealth, grow your retirement savings. No better way to do it than bank on yourself. We've been brainwashed into believing the only way to grow our money for retirement is to risk it in the stock market. That is not true. You can reach your financial goals and dreams without taking any unnecessary risk. Bank on yourself is a better way to grow and protect your hard-earned money with guaranteed predictable growth and retirement income with no luck, skill, or guesswork required. Your plan doesn't go backwards when the markets tumble. Both your principal and growth are locked in. You get access to your money for any purpose, no questions, no government penalties or restrictions on how much income you can take or when you can take it. You can't do that with a 401k or an IRA. This is the strategy famous businesses like McDonald's use when no banker would lend them a dime and almost anyone could do it. Perhaps the best reason of all, you'll know the minimum guaranteed value of your retirement savings on the day you plan to tap into them and at every point along the way. You can get a free report with all the details on how Bank on Yourself strategy adds guarantees, predictability, and control to your financial plan. Just go to bankonyourself.com/fearless. That's bankonyourself.com/fearless. David Pollack and our guys from Tennessee Harmony next. Who's worse, Shiloh Sanders or Bronny James? Whose daddy's doing the most here? Deion Sanders or LeBron James? Whose son is in over their head the most? Steve?
Okay, so this is the old gonorrhea or syphilis. Which is worse? I mean, they're both kind of bad, but I can't. Okay, so this is the reality of this whole thing. Shiloh is a Division I safety. A bad one, but he's still a Division I safety. Bronny is not an NBA caliber player. And Jason, I think it may be found out, and this is going to be scary for the Lakers maybe, or LeBron. He may not even be a legitimate G League player. There's actually a lot of talented guys at that level of basketball that just need a shot, that actually put up a lot of numbers at the Division I level. Guys that played 2, 3, 4 years, made all conference, but their dad is not an NBA legend. I actually believe that Bronny is less qualified for his role than Shiloh.
Bronny is less qualified than Shiloh. I have to agree. Shiloh last year didn't make a fool of himself at Colorado. Shiloh was a good player at Jackson State, and I thought he was a solid player. Game-winning play. I think he had a pick 6 or something in an early game. All right, welcome back. Jason Whitlock, Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And man, this is such a great honor to be joined by David Pollack. Can we bring David up on camera? Because I want to tell David something, man. The thing I really respect about David, shut the door. The thing I respect about David is his faith and his integrity. And he's got so much integrity that even as a Georgia Bulldog, he's honest enough to admit that Alabama is 10 to 20 times better than Georgia. That's how strong he is in his faith and character and integrity. David, could you just talk about how great Alabama is?
What a way to start. What a beautiful introduction, Jason. Hey, they were better when it mattered, right? That's all that mattered was on the field in the first half. Good Lord, that was really, really ugly. But I think everybody, including yourself, would have been really worried if there was another quarter, because everything definitely was swinging back the other way.
David, I'm going to stay in character for just one more comment. I was reading a story about David's recruitment, and even as a kid, he had this kind of integrity. He said, "Man, I wish I was good enough to go to Alabama, but I'll instead commit to Georgia." He said that on his recruiting announcement day. It was just an amazing moment. That kind of integrity. Anyway, let me get more serious. David, Georgia travels to Texas this week, and many people are crowning Texas as the most talented team, the best team. You probably have a different take, or maybe you don't. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Well, I think Texas has been the most complete team, and I think that's what people see. But here's what I'll say. Georgia hasn't been a road underdog since 2020. So, that's COVID days. So it's been a while that they've been in this spot. Georgia hasn't put a complete game together. We haven't seen that yet. It's been very up and down. But Texas, to me, the thing that worries me about Texas and what I've seen from them is they just ain't played nobody, Jason. The best offense that defense has played is Michigan. We've seen Michigan. Michigan can't throw with 1, 2. They on their third quarterback. So they've tried with 3 different guys. Oklahoma, they're on their second quarterback. They haven't been able to complete the forward pass. So I think Texas is really, really good. I think we find out a lot about Texas this week. I think when you look at their defense in particular, the secondary, they don't do a ton, Jason. And against Carson Beck, can he have success? Because if you want to talk about Georgia in the past and run the football and conservative, this team is Carson Beck's now. They threw it 50 times against Bama. They threw it 48 against Mississippi State. They threw it 30 against Auburn. This is a passing explosive offense. Texas hasn't seen that yet. So I do think it'll present a big challenge for their defense, and particularly their secondary.
Do you like the way Georgia's playing with Carson Beck and being this passing team? You guys got such a great running back history. Are they playing the proper way? Are you comfortable with this? You enjoying this?
I think they have to play this way because their best 2 players on their offensive line is their center and their right guard, and both of them are out. And so I think they've had to shift who they are. Listen, remember we think about Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers the last couple of years of tight end U and Georgia playing all tight ends. Their leading tight end has 5 catches this season. So it's just been a shift because of their players, their continuity. They got so many new guys that they're rotating in, and I think the strength is their receiver position as opposed to their tight ends. And I think ETN is a great back. And I kind of feel bad for him because I think he came to Georgia and he was like, I'm going to have some holes. This ain't going to be like it was at Florida. And Georgia hasn't been able to run the football. So I think it's necessity. I think it's your best player is the quarterback. And the only way this thing's going to go and going to work is he's going to have to play pitch and catch a lot. And so I think that's what they're going to be.
Alabama at Tennessee also this weekend. Another huge game. A second loss for one of these teams, which would probably knock them out of any type of playoff consideration. What do you expect to happen here?
Man, what a crazy 2 weeks, Jason. I want you to close your eyes and take yourself back 2 weeks. Alabama's 1, and you feeling good. Tennessee's 4, and you're feeling good. And now see what happened was you got Vandy that came and beat Bama. You got Arkansas that beat Tennessee. You played sluggish games last week. Didn't look great against South Carolina. Tennessee obviously went to OT against a very bad Florida team this season. So I think both are searching for what they do really well. And that's weird to think about when we talk about the start of the season. Another thing, Nico was here, man. He was on an upward trajectory. You thought they were going to build this team around him. He hadn't thrown for over 200 yards in the last 4 games. Last 4 games, he's got 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They don't even trust him to throw the football. He's going to have to play so much better, and they're going to have to let it rip. And listen, their running game has been the best part of their offense by far, but Alabama's not going to let them line up and pound them. So the Nico train, which, by the way, I was on. I was on that train, and I thought it was going to take off, and I thought it was going to be the best offense we've seen under Heupel. It's continued to be misses in big-time spots, and he's going to have to play a lot better. I think he's going to have to run the football. And then Alabama, we've seen some sluggishness from them too. Who's going to help Jalen Milroe? That's to me the issue. He's got 77 carries on the season. Jam Miller has 51. Last week is the first time, Jason, that I saw. Most of the time when you watch Milroe, it looks like he's in fast forward on tape. Like, he's so much faster than everybody else. It looked like the body blows and all the carries and all the weight he's had to carry with this offense, because it's all on his shoulders. It looked like he slowed down a little bit last week, and he looked a little bit more human. And so at Tennessee, super tough environment. You're right, loser, you're pretty much out of this thing. It's going to be an uphill climb to get back in it, but Bama at least has Milroe, who is going to make big plays. Listen, he's a great baseball player, right? Like, he's a new school baseball player. He's going to hit that thing 400 feet, or he's going to strike out. Like, he'll have some bad plays, but those good ones, man, they can carry an offense.
How much do you, and because it's obvious, you're going to miss a Nick Saban, but the sluggishness we're seeing from Alabama, how much of it you think is they don't have Nick Saban anymore, or their talents are down a little bit from previous Alabama teams?
I think I can say both. I think I can say that their talent is down. Listen, when Nick decided to leave, like, you saw the transfer portal. I mean, it went nuts, and people started to take off. Now, he rallied and went in the transfer portal and got depth and made his team a little bit better. But I think that they've dropped off definitely in talent. They don't have a premier pass rusher. Jason, we've been talking all these years about guys coming off the edge that, for them, that have been going really high in the draft. They don't have that guy, so combine that with some youth. But when I watch him, I definitely more penalties, more turnovers, more mistake prone, a defense that gives up big plays. Nick Saban's defense, you don't consistently see him give up big play after big play after big play, especially against Vandy. So I think it's fair to say that there's been a talent drop off, but also I think an energy and a standard that you hold them to a little. I think a little bit of that has shown itself too.
Hey, I want to play you a clip from Travis Hunter. He's talking about Robert Griffin's asking about the Heisman Trophy race, and they end up talking about Ashton Jeanty, the running back out of Boise State. And so I want to ask you about the Heisman race, but I also want to ask you about how Travis Hunter handled this question and handled this conversation as it relates to the Heisman. Let's play slot number 2.
Right. And I want you to know that I don't want y'all to shy away from speaking that stuff into existence. I don't think that you can't win it. I definitely think you can win it.
I know I can win it, but
Robert
I don't know.
Couldn't win it either.
I don't know who was there. I mean, y'all see Ashton Jeanty, but it's not like we haven't seen a running back that's good.
All right.
We haven't seen a player that plays both ways, and I'm gonna keep saying that. It's like he have 95 carries.
Yeah.
For
1,000 yards. Yeah.
If I had 95 catches, how much yards you think I have?
Okay.
So I'm trying to tell him, like, if I had 95 targets on defense, what you think I'll have?
Right. Oh.
If I had 95 catches on offense, what you think I'll have? So I try to tell you, like, he got double the touches I got on the offensive side of the ball, and I still have defensive stats that's still crazy, and we only in week 6.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to argue about it.
2 questions. Where you at on the Heisman race? Who's your favorite? What did you think about Travis's answer there?
Well, I think it's always a tough spot. I think when you put a kid in that spot, like, listen, your belief is always strong in yourself, and you should believe in yourself. And so I'm okay with that. Do I agree with what he said? No. And just like Deion, it's interesting to me. Deion's like, Travis Hunter's a once-in-a-lifetime generational type player. You don't see Travis Hunter's like, and then he mentioned, Woodson and Champ Bailey. I'm like, well, you just mentioned 2 players that were in that elk that played both sides of the football. That was pretty good. Like, so it's hard for a defensive player to win it. It's going to be hard for him to win it because his team is better than expected probably, but not great. He didn't finish the last game, which I don't think helps. He was sitting on the sidelines. He had a shoulder injury. So, that doesn't help. I think he would have to put up, freaky numbers. He would have to put up really, really good numbers like an Ashton Jeanty's doing right now. Like, this dude's doing something like, I don't want to minimize what Jeanty's doing. Like, it is incredible. And by the way, he did it against Oregon, who just beat Ohio State and is one of the best teams in the country. He had 50 more yards than his quarterback had that game. And you knew he was getting totes, and he had over 200 yards of offense. in a big-time game. This dude, I mean, he is freaky, the numbers he is putting up, especially considering he is the whole team. He needs to be in this discussion. Dylan Gabriel just jumped in this discussion with 2 feet. He hopscotched in this discussion last week, man. I mean, he threw for 340 against Ohio State with 2 touchdowns. He had a 27-yard touchdown run, and it was his left arm that you can continue to see that Ohio State didn't have answers for. They're going to continue to have big games down the stretch. How many big games are we going to see with Colorado? That's going to be tough for them. Like, you're going to see big moments from Gabriel. Cam Ward, we didn't even talk about, who's very much in this discussion with 2,200 yards passing, 20 touchdowns passing, 2 fourth-quarter comebacks, 1 down 25, 1 down 10 when he said, hop on my back, I got you. So I think there's a lot that goes into the discussion. It's not always the best player, Jason. We know that. It's the best player whose team is winning at a really, really high level. Like, that's a part of it. And quarterbacks have the advantage because they touch the ball every play. Like, that's just the way it works.
David, I'm going to ask you something, but I'm going to bring Anthony Walker and perhaps Kevin Donahue into the conversation. These guys, once a week, I talk with them about sports things and things going on in the world from a biblical perspective. And I knew that part of our conversation would turn that way. So I've invited them into this conversation. I want to start here with RG3, David, saying he's using the speak it into existence deal. And I see a lot of people using that. And I think, you know, it's like me sitting around, I'm going to speak some McDonald's into existence, or we talk about things that really don't matter. Winning the Heisman Trophy, we're going to speak this, and RG3 is a young Christian and a believer, but I think sometimes we play with these words and play with these biblical concepts and apply them inappropriately. And as next thing you know, I can speak into existence, me winning the Heisman Trophy. And it's like we're bringing God into this rather than, hey, man, you're just playing a game. People are going to vote on this. It ain't really that important. What do you think of just about this whole speak it? Because I hear it a lot in sports. Does that ever cross your mind, the thoughts I just talked about? And then, Anthony, you follow in behind David.
I think the context in which Robert's choosing is like, you know, be confident. Like, I think that's what a lot of people say is like, be confident. But when you talk about a biblical perspective and we're trying to speak things into existence, I mean, God says, if you ask for something, I'll give it to you. Like, but he also says, he's not talking about if you ask to win the lottery, you're going to win the lottery. Like, but if you ask for things that are in his direction, in his will, that that he can provide from you from that standpoint, I think he'll continue to provide. I don't think we have the ability to speak things into existence, but I think we can pray to a God that's so much bigger than us, that's so much better than us, that can give us directions and steps and discipline, give us discipline and guidance in those areas that we can continue to grow and strive and get better and be the best version of us.
You make a good point about faith being in this, and RG3 is trying to make it an element about faith, of speaking it into existence. But again, the point that you make, Jason, is what does this have to do in the context of God's desire for mankind? God wants...
Anthony's mic's not on. I was wondering. I'm not here. Kevin, give me a sound check.
Check.
His mic's not on either. Let's work on that. David, I'm going to circle back to you. Deion Sanders, I wanted to ask, when we've debated this on this show quite a bit, about Deion, and he leads with his faith. And for me, it's problematic because I see too many rappers in the locker room. I see too much people speaking to the team that clearly, to me, aren't in line with God's way. I'm starting to hear someone's, I think it's Anthony's. But anyway, people that aren't in line with God's way speaking and talking to this team. And I wonder, has any of that struck you as you've watched Deion Sanders transition into being a Power 5, Power 4 head coach, and just his leadership style? He talks a lot about Christianity, but a lot of his actions and things he's bringing to the team don't seem to be in alignment with that.
Well, and I think so your team's always watching, and people are always watching. And to me, the best way that I'm ever going to to lead people to the faith that I believe. Like the best way I'm going to do that is the way I live my life, Jason, right? Like that is the best example. That is the best preaching that I could ever do is the way I live consistently. So I think that I don't know how he is all the time. I don't know how he is behind the camera in team meetings. I've seen Deion up close at practice before, and I like the way that they're disciplined, and he'll hold them to some discipline. And I like that he's a little bit old school and wants to push them. But I do know this: if it's not real, kids will sense it. And if you're telling me something and you're not living it, kids will sense it. So I love when I hear coaches that are bold about their faith because I have a strong faith, and I'm encouraged when I see that. I do think that as Christians, we can also talk about our faith, Jason. And sometimes if we talk about our faith and we don't live it out, then a lot of times we're turning people away from our faith, and we're being the negative side of the faith when instead of turning people on, I think we have a tendency to turn people off. So its actions are always more important than words.
David, there's been a lot of conversation around ESPN. Used to be a big part of ESPN, College Game Day. Sage Steele, big part of ESPN. Samantha Ponder. When I say rattle off those three names, those were three people that kind of let people know I'm walking this walk, and I serve Jesus. And none of you three are there anymore. And now sports have been engulfed with this XX versus XY boys and girls sports controversy. And I was when you were at ESPN, were you feeling that pressure? Could you feel that you were in the middle of conflict and a lack of comfort being able to fully express your worldview?
100%. And listen, I'm not saying that they always said that to me, but it was very clear. Like your opinions you post on social media, while they are yours, they also represent us. And so we are taking that into account. And so you 100% know that. And I'll say this, being critical of myself, like I was absolutely worried about what I said so I didn't get fired. And I think that's a bad thing, man. I think that's a bad job by me, a really bad job by me. And I've been very thankful now that I've been fired because it's opened up me to be able to talk about whatever the subject is in a truthful manner. And that is really fun. And I'm definitely going to make sure that I take advantage of it because, we got a lot of stuff going on that, I want to hear from certain people, and I want to hear a biblical perspective, and I want to hear different perspectives besides people that when you have something to lose, Jason, and you can't talk about something, like, I don't trust your opinion. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you literally, that they can't necessarily say exactly. Dan Orlovsky's a great point. Like, he said what he said, completely his beliefs, what he wanted to say. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, I take it down because I don't want to get in trouble. And I'm afraid that I'll get in trouble. So it's freeing. It's good. I wish I wasn't a coward. I wish I'd had the onions to do it when I had the opportunity when I was at ESPN.
I love it. I love that level of transparency. I'm probably a bit more sympathetic. How old are you, David?
42.
42. You're married. You got kids.
Oh yeah.
And you're sitting there thinking about all your responsibilities and the position you want to put your kids in. Sometimes I go overboard on the sympathy, and that's why I keep Anthony and Virgil and Kevin around, and because Virgil's
even
not here
their
today.
Mics.
Virgil beats me up. But Anthony, your reaction to him, he's acknowledging, like, man, I didn't handle that the way that I should have, perhaps as a Christian, and he regrets that.
It's interesting when you're in that position, you want to be bold in your faith and being handcuffed, understanding that sometimes that even happens in churches where even ministers are looking at the audience, and if they're not solid in their faith, they may want to placate to the audience rather than being convicted. But what I do appreciate about what David is just saying is that, hey, now that I have this platform, my own, I can speak it boldly. He looks back and reflects on that. And again, using that platform, recognizing that, hey, this might be the sacrifice, but that's what happens in Christianity. Our faith is about sacrifice. It is about, hey, I might lose the position, I might lose the financial capability, I may lose some of that, but again, standing for my faith is far more valuable than any of it.
I think the word here is integrity, right? Because we do put our lives in silos. If we're a police officer, we have to behave a certain way, and we're paid to behave a certain way while we're on duty. But if it starts to affect your integrity, who we are as human beings, how we're behaving in the world, then we have to acknowledge it and take a look. Maybe this isn't the right spot for me. And the courage is walking away when it's good, right? When it's really good and the paychecks are coming in, the bonuses are big, and you're willing to walk away because it's not right for you.
David, I think it was inevitable. Me watching you and seeing like some of the things you tweet out, I'm like, man, this guy's on ESPN and he's trying to do the dance. I think there's a lot of, I'm sure you, and we won't call names, but there's a lot of guys doing that dance. What would you say to the guys that are in the exact same position you are, and they're looking at what's going on with young people? Again, for me, it's just like, man, we got drag queens dancing in front of little kids, and child-friendly drag shows, and now we got boys playing girl sports. That's where it's just like, I can't be quiet. I gotta speak out, and I gotta call people out that won't. It's the kids part that has pushed me over the line, where I just gotta go independent, where I can talk about Jesus and I can call these people out. What was the line for you?
Well, I think it's not just, on-air talent. I think it's actors. I think it's musicians. Like, all these people have such a strong ability to connect to people and have a following and shoot influencers. Like, so many people now, like when we were younger, man, very few people could influence us. And now the world is so small with social media that everyone can influence everyone. And somebody in Australia can connect with you this morning. And so I think it's a different world. It's a bigger world it's a smaller world now. And so we have so many people. But here's the thing, man, like, what's right, what's wrong. And it's just like, I've had a lot of opportunities, man, since I've been done. And, a gambling company came to me and we want you to send out a series of this. And Jason, the money was really nice. Like, I was like, dang, like that would be really good. Well, if I cause one person to stumble, then I'm not doing my job. Like, I'm supposed to encourage people. I'm supposed to be light. I'm not supposed to be a stumbling block. Same thing with alcohol. Had an opportunity to do some stuff with our stuff with alcohol and with food companies that I don't support. I had an opportunity to work with somebody in this space, in a podcast space. And I was like, okay, is that who I want to be attached to? And so I think just being cognizant, but being okay speaking your mind, being okay with people disagreeing with you, being okay with the vitriol that comes your way for your convictions. You're going to suffer. Like, the Bible talks about that. Like, we're going to suffer for our faith, and that's okay. I'm going to suffer from not trying to live in the world, right? To trying to be different. And I think getting comfortable with that and understanding that some of that comes with it. But you have an opportunity, man, to change lives. And if it's worth suffering to change 2 lives and 3 lives and 4 lives, and just like with the men and women's sports, like, I didn't know what to say, Jason. I didn't think it was my place, because I'm like, this is women's sports. Like, is this something I need to come out and say? But where are the women? And where are the people, saying this and coming out? And I didn't know what it would lead to. And I didn't think I was an expert, but I'm like, surely we understand the difference between a biological man and a biological woman. And that's why we always separate them, because one has an inordinate amount of testosterone flowing through them, which means they just get bigger and they just get stronger. And they actually have pain receptors that are weakened. Like, they're just way on a different playing field completely than a woman. And it just kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And I'll be honest, like, if I had my job at ESPN, I probably would have been like, do I say something? Because I know I'm going to piss people off. I know it's going to put me in a position where somebody's going to look at it and probably going to come to me and what am I going to do? What am I going to say? What am I going to do if I don't have a job anymore and I'm taking care of my babies and I'm taking care of my baby dolls? So, yeah, I think all of that works together. But if you have the chance and the courage and the influence, here's another thing too, Jason. How about this? And I'll throw this to y'all. Like, do we have to curse all the time now? Like, is that something that every athlete has to do in an interview? Is that something that we have to do on every show? Now these kids, I'm a high school football coach, and we're walking around and it's just mother blank this, mother blank that. And I'm like, so you're a believer, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, your words matter to God. And those are different words we can use, but we see it everywhere, man.
Oh, I think you've raised a great question. It's something I struggle with. I used to curse like a sailor. You know, MF was my favorite word, and I say that in all seriousness. Tony Dungy had to come after me on social media, did it privately in DMs like, hey, Jay, you saying you're on my team, you can't be talking that way. And it's helped me, you know, really, he pushed me the right direction and I've done a better job with it. And now I hear things differently because even in this podcast YouTube space, they, I think, reward profanity. Mm-hmm. The more raw your speech is on YouTube, I think the algorithm loves it because I'll look around at shows where and I'm like, man, they got 8,000 live concurrents listening to this, and every other word out of this guy's mouth is profane or stupid. It's not grammatically correct. And I'm like, the whole system is rigged to reward dysfunction and chaos. And you're 1,000% right. David, where I will say to you, and I want Anthony to chime in, he started out by saying that he had questions about like, hey, it's women, and do I really have an opinion on that, or where are the women at? And my position, and again, I'm probably on the sexist pig spectrum, is that, hey man, I got an opinion on everything. I'm a man, I'm in leadership. This woman doesn't really know what she's doing. And if I don't hop out here and tell her what to do, we're gonna be dealing with chaos. I'm probably a little too far on others, but when I hear David, it's like, no, as a man, and particularly as a man following Jesus Christ, yeah, have an opinion on everything and speak it loudly, as long as you're coming from this book.
So it's not necessarily just about your opinion, it's about your convictions and your faith and your consistency with God's word. Paul tells both of his mentees, Timothy and Titus, in teaching them how to be ministers. He instructs them, hey, teach the older men how to be properly older men to teach younger men. Teach the older women how to be properly as women so that they may teach the younger women. You don't have to be a woman to teach her the truth of the gospel and what she's supposed to be. Likewise, you don't have to be an older man, because Timothy was younger, teaching men older than him how to be righteous and how to be godly. So you can do that with consistency with God's word, because he's given us everything pertaining to life and godliness in his word. And I mean, even, you know, as David points out, he has these questions of should I say, but even within him, his conviction says, hey, something's not right about this. Just on the optical, the eye test, observational test to say, wait a minute, these men are genetically, physically different than these women. God made them male and female differently for purpose, on purpose. And so if you're going to put them in the same arena competing, that's not going to be right. And the world is going opposite of that to tell you, oh yeah, everything that is seemingly wrong, it's okay and you must accept it. So yeah, as long as I'm coming from God's word, I'm male or female, if I be consistent with God's word, it gives us the truth.
The other thing I heard, Kevin, I'm going to relate it to abortion. It's like women have us on our heels. It's like, no, murdering babies, that's our little special area. You don't have an opinion on it. We get to murder babies. You shut your mouth. This is our business. That to me sounds like, let's dial the clock back 200 years. No, I'm a white man. I get to decide what happens to these black folks. You don't have an opinion on it. Shut up. It's the exact same mentality, and that's why I get, miss me with all the, well, this is a woman's issue. I get to murder babies if I want to.
Well, and I think the vast majority of people feel exactly like David does. Like, clearly, there's men and there's women. But we're looking at a media and politically driven media, right? That's trying to insert chaos, trying to cause us to turn our backs on our integrity, turn our backs on the gospel, turn our backs on everything we were raised with by our family, and turn our backs on the country that we were raised in and our culture. I think this is why it's important that, as an employee working for a company, we are behavior rental agreements. People hire us and pay us money to behave a certain way. It's why it's important for us to be able to go out on our own, look at becoming an entrepreneur, navigating this world through our own lens so that we can say the things we want to say, when we want to say them, and how we want to say them. Otherwise, we will get caught up, especially when you're working for a media company, like a big one like ESPN, ABC, or any of these companies. You are going to be driven into the chaos because that seems to be the purpose. Earlier you were mentioning, I don't have a television. Well, why not? I don't want to have that chaos entering into my home. My son will never see a television in our home as long as he's living with me. So, but that is on purpose because it's all chaos. So we have to make that choice and cut that cord and say, okay, no more. My faith, my family, my country is what's most important to me.
David, you've written a book, The Won't Quit Kid. What's the purpose? What's the design? What are you trying to accomplish with your book?
Put this on the list of things I never thought I would do. I mean, defensive players play defense for a reason. We're usually the dumbest players on the field. Offense knows where they're going, has to coordinate. We do see ball, get ball. I'm around a ton of youth league parents, and I have been growing up. And I see a message to kids that really bothers me. Like I see it, like we get, and I don't think we do it on purpose, Jason, but we jump in the car and we talk. If our kid did something good, then we go right away and we go, hey man, that was a great home run. Like, and we talk about that. That was a great touchdown. And we talk about that. Well, then all of a sudden when we jump in the car, and if you jumped in the car and they didn't have a home run, we don't have something to talk about. We don't have something to praise. I think the kid sees that and they're like, okay, well, success is when I get rewarded. Success is when they tell me I did a good job. So I need to be good on the field to get rewarded at home. And I don't think that's how we want to live. So just teaching kids, man, like football, life, jobs, school, everything, it's going to be hard and it's going to hurt. And we use this in the book. It's going to be hot, it's going to be hard, and it's going to hurt. And we have to learn to approach whatever it is. And in this case, it's youth league football. Like we've got to learn to approach it with, hey man, I'm going to have a great attitude. Like I'm going to try as hard as I can. And that's what success looks like. It doesn't look like scoring a touchdown. It doesn't look like I have to do X, Y, and Z. It looks like being the best version of me, man. And really now parents looking at the book and saying, okay, this is how I can pour into my kid, right? Like, hey, I know it's hard, but we can't quit. Because the easiest thing in life is to quit. And that's what we do a lot of. I don't like it, I quit. No. I might not like something that I am really passionate about. Like this kid in the book he's so passionate about football, and people in life are going to be so passionate about things that I want to go accomplish, and they're going to get hit right in the mouth, and it's going to be hard. And then how are you going to respond? Are you going to quit? Are you going to continue to show up and find a way to shape it a little bit different in your mind? And then the next thing you know, dude, you're going to look up and then you're going to be successful because you're going to have showed up and learn how to work, showed up and learn how to have a good attitude. And then guess what? Success will follow after.
What you're talking about is going all the way back to the fundamentals of just life and worldview with young people, because I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, hey, now we've built a culture that rewards quitting in terms of the transfer portal. Hey, you know what? Things aren't going great here for me at such and such university. I'm out, guys. I'm going someplace else. And people transfer teams in professional sports constantly. Hey, this isn't working out exactly how I wanted, and I should be catching more balls, or they don't have the nightlife I want. And it's like quitting now is no big deal. And for guys, I'm 57. Like quitting was the biggest deal because I quit my sixth grade football team. It was the only time my father went through the roof on me, carried me back up to the team, dog cussed me in front of all the players, And, I didn't quit the team. I was the only good player on the team. That's why I wanted to quit. We were losing every game. And he was like this. And I got to college, and I struggled my first 2 years in college because I didn't have the right attitude, didn't get along with my coaches, and I wanted to quit. And my mother and father, both like, you're on your own, buddy. Good luck. Call me when you get a job and you find an apartment. But now we're in this era where I think parents now help kids quit, and we have to go all the way back to the fundamentals like you're talking about in this book.
Yeah, and it's just a change of thought process, and it's fine. Like, I think if we were conditioned a certain way, so be it. But how can we teach our kids to work hard? Like, when I pray for my kids, Jason, like, I've never been someone that prays for protection of my babies. I don't. I pray that God equips them with the resilience to face head on whatever they get. Like, I know difficult times are coming their way, but man, I want them to have the sword and be ready to fight and be ready to understand, like, I can go get it. Like, God is going to bring me through. God is for me in every circumstance, and he's going to bring me through to the other side. He might have a lesson for me in there that I didn't really want to hear, but I needed to hear. And so I think that's important for all of us to consider and to continue to put in our kids, because tough times are coming and hard things are coming. The storm is coming. If you ain't in one, I promise it's coming. And when you live long enough, you understand that.
David, where did you learn this? Is this the way you were raised up, or is this something you've learned through your journey with God and now being married and having your own kids, or were your parents, what was your upbringing like as a young athlete and just as a young child?
Man, I was raised completely different because we never went to church. And until 6 months ago, my family had never been in church together. And now we all share the same church, which is fantastic, and another story for another day. But I came to faith as a senior in high school. I was always different. God's always put in me a resilience. Like I remember watching the World Cup. You remember the World Cup when Brandi Chastain ripped off her shirt and celebrated gold and everybody went nuts. And I remember the semifinal match. I remember where I was as a 14-year-old kid. And they talked about on the broadcast that girls don't drink carbonation during the World Cup because it hurts their conditioning. Well, I'm 14. That's the last time I touched a carbonated beverage in my life. So like I've been structured and disciplined. Now, I didn't know the why behind it, and I didn't know that I had developed systems along the way and goals along the way to continue to help me and point me in a direction. But my mom and daddy, and this is a message for all youth league parents out there, because youth league sports is outrageous. It's a moneymaker. It's a time suck. It's crazy. There's so many things about it that I don't like. I love sports. Sports is a great teacher. It taught me discipline. It taught me toughness. It taught me how to handle losing, how to handle success and winning. But our priorities are so backwards that, we skip Sundays every Sunday and we go play sports. And we're in the next tournament. And we got to be on this team, because if we're not on this team, we're not going to make it to the ultimate prize down the road. Like, none of that's true. My mom and dad did not put me in any other sports. I didn't have a trainer. I didn't have a private coach. I was blessed with a gift with big legs and big booty and a tenacious personality. And so it helped me, and I was able to be successful. But in our country, we're so about sport and sport and sport, and it's got to be sports all the time. When, you know what we teach our kids, Jason, and this is heartbreaking, and I'm around a lot of people, man. We teach our kids, and all of my friends are like, no, God first, God first, God first. I'm like, okay, I ain't seen you in church in 2 months, bro. Like, how is that putting God first? Well, it's baseball season. We play travel baseball. Oh, so we take vacations from God. Like, and I say to my buddies, I said, here's the deal. I said, you can tell me all you want, God is your priority, but when you skip church every Sunday and you go to baseball, you show your kids that baseball is your priority. And we got that backwards, man. We're so much about sport and going and doing this, and this, that we forget to do this and sit at a table for dinner. We forget to go to church together. And we forget that, guess what? At some point, those kids are going to hang those cleats up. They're going to hang those shoes up. And they are going to stand before God. And that's what I'm most concerned about, is how do I develop my young man into a man? How do I develop my young daughter into a woman? and a God-fearing man, a God-fearing woman that knows how to share their faith, that is equipped for whatever comes their way.
David, thank you for sharing some of your time this morning with us. Wish you continued success. Would love to have you back. Where can people get your book? Is there a website they can go to? How do people get access to your book, The Won't Quit Kid?
DavidKidsBook.com. Can go on there and check out the book. And I promise it'll be fun to read with your kids, and it'll teach them a message that's not like that they'll be able to get, I think, if we read it to them over and over. And the coolest part, Jason, was I got to add all the names in of people that affected me in my life. Like Coach Norm is the coach in the book. That's my daddy. Eddie Shaddix is the brother. His name's Eddie. That was my high school football coach that talked me into playing football after I quit as a sophomore because I wasn't playing. And so Nick is the son, and that's my little man's name. So it was kind of cool to write it. But DavidKidsBook.com. Go get it. And your kids will enjoy it.
Thank you, David. Appreciate the time. Anthony, Kevin, any additional thoughts on what David was sharing here with us about sports and kids? Yeah. And I know as a minister, Anthony, you know a lot of people take those football and baseball vacations.
Yeah, I was really loving what he meant about the book, because the lessons about not quitting and redefining what success is, that's a big staple in why I am where I am in life. My mom and Brother Beeman, my mentor, they both would never let me quit because things got hard. And my mom helped me to redefine what success was. Success was not an A. Success was not a great game by statistics. Success was always predicated upon doing your best. So she would be the one that even if I did well athletically, we won the game, we whatever, but if she saw lackluster effort, I'm still getting, rode at the end of the day because doing my best, that translates into life. So I love that dynamic. I also just love his conviction in what he's sharing. And again, that whole dynamic about our priorities. God sees our priorities by how we live them, not just by how we talk about them. And in our world, we're big on talk and big on professing it, but not so much about living it. So I really appreciate what he had to say about that.
Yeah, I love to hear stories like David's where they weren't raised in a church, but they found it later on in life. Like somehow they discovered this. We were in church every Sunday. If there was a conflict, we'd go Saturday evening. I didn't realize the impact that had on my life until years later. And I actually called my father and thanked him. I said, Dad, thanks for your commitment. Every Sunday we were in church. There were no vacations. It was like militant. And so I think that's great. I'm excited to check out David's book and, read that to my little kid as he gets older and go from there. So.
All right, well, thank you, guys. I'm going to circle back. We're going to circle back to Steve Kim. There's a couple other topics I want to talk about. I want Steve Kim's take on Travis Hunter and the Heisman Trophy race. There's some additional WNBA topics. I want to get into, X, Twitter, is changing its block functionality. And those of us that block people from seeing our account will be affected by that. We'll do that with Steve Kim next.
Months. How do you listen to these stories and not feel pain and not want to help? You know what I mean? It's like wearing a hoodie and putting your hands at 10 and 2. Oh God, I better look out because I'm wearing Nike gear. Like what? What are we talking about? And so you can't relate to that if you're white, but you can listen. And you can try to help because this is not okay. It's just not.
It's not.
And
because I wouldn't know how to live if he wouldn't have made it out. And so thank you for everybody that reached out to me. And like, I know it's getting better, but it's not better yet, and better for everybody.
We give guys these big contracts because they want to be able to lead 70 men, coaches, equipment staff, and managers to the number one goal, and that's to win the championship. And for us to be moving back and not forward in 21st century, like I said, man, National Football League, this hurts me. The clock is ticking, man. I'm sorry.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러
All right, welcome back. Man, that clip always puts a smile on my face, and it is a reminder why ESPN sucks. Steve Kim, welcome back to the show. Steve, I wanted to talk with you about Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter talking about the Heisman Trophy. I know you. We're going back, man. We're going back. NFL, you're on the... Anyway, Steve, let me move on. I want to play this clip. I just played it for David Pollack. And before I even play this clip, what do you think about David Pollack and what he had to say there?
Oh, I love David. I actually subscribe to his YouTube channel, David Pollack College Football. Watch that regularly every single week. Does great breakdowns. Meat and potatoes football. And he is a Georgia Bulldog legend. Made one of the great plays I've ever seen in college football history. I think they were playing Tennessee. He literally intercepted a ball from an inch away. I forgot the quarterback, but he sacked him, and he actually mugged him out of the football while he was in the end zone. It's an instrumental play, one of the great early victories in the run of Mark Richt in Athens, Georgia. So shout out to David Pollack.
Well, and it would have only been better if he had done that while wearing an Alabama uniform, as I told him. Anyway, on a serious note. Here's Travis Hunter talking with RG3 about the Heisman Trophy race, and he seems to take an unnecessary shot at Genty, the Boise State running back. Here's the clip.
Right. And I want you to know that I don't want y'all to shy away from speaking that stuff into existence. I don't think that you can't win it. I definitely think you can win it.
I know I can win it, but
Robert
I don't know.
couldn't win it either.
I don't know who was there. I mean, y'all see Ashton Genty, but it's not like we haven't seen a running back that's good.
All right.
We haven't seen a player that plays both ways, and I'm gonna keep saying that. It's like he have 95 carries.
Yeah.
For
1,000 yards. Yeah.
If I had 95 catches, how much yards you think I have?
Okay.
So I'm trying to tell him, like, if I had 95 targets on defense, what you think I'll have?
Right.
If I had 95 catches on offense, what you think I'll have? So I try to tell you, like, he got double the touches I got on the offensive side of the ball, and I still have defensive stats that's still crazy, and we only in week 6.
Yeah.
So, I'm not gonna argue about it.
That's the prime time effect, in my view. Travis Hunter has been with Deion Sanders for 3 years, and now he sounds like Deion Sanders. And instead of, taking a more humble position and letting his play speak for itself, he went on to basically make the case why he should win the Heisman. If he had 95 touches, he'd do this, he'd do that. And it's like Travis Hunter, I like the way he handled the Colorado State situation a year ago with the safety Blackburn. But what I've been seeing this year looks like Deion's attitude has rubbed off on Travis Hunter, and it's ego and flash and bravado far more than any humility. I didn't like it.
To be fair, he was led into that question by RG3 and his pom-pom waving. But, look, this is probably the first misstep for Travis Hunter as a Colorado Buffalo, who I believe has actually stayed above the fray. But I'm just wondering if he understands football. I mean, he talks about 95 touches and all this and that. All right. Well, Travis, what if you were getting the ball outside of, instead of getting out into space, what if you had to run the ball into the box with 8 or 9 men hurtling at you in an offense where you're literally the main and only weapon? I mean, seriously, anytime you play Boise State, you know there's one guy you got to stop, and that's Genty. And he's running the ball physically, and he's shrugging off tacklers. And Genty, to me, has not been given enough credit. I know there's a bias against him because he's not at a P4 or traditional blue blood. But this is a guy that's going to be taken in the first round of the National Football League draft. He'll be that running back that comes along once every couple of years that is drafted within the first 20 picks, okay? I know running backs have been devalued, but when you're that good, there's a value. And I just look at Genty. I see a lot of Kajana Carter at Penn State, who would have had a great pro career if he doesn't blow out his knee in his second carry in preseason. People forget how good he is, and he runs a lot like him. As for Travis Hunter, again, if he had 95 touches and did all that, maybe he doesn't play in another game or two. And this is kind of a strange thing to say coming off a week where he only played about a quarter and a half. Durability matters. Would he have the durability of Ashton Genty, who has to carry a whole offense by himself? So, look, I think Hunter is an outstanding player. I think he's been a very good citizen. And to be fair, this was a bit of a leading question that was given to him.
It was, but I don't think the answer just didn't require that. It didn't. Hey, I do think RG3 says I do think you can win the Heisman. I do. Don't be shy about speaking it into existence. And then you go straight at Genty, and then you make a nonsensical answer in terms of like just what you said. Does the guy even understand football? One guy sits 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And is facing 11 defenders who are like, their first thought is, hey, this Genty kid may get the ball, we got to stop him. Travis Hunter lines up on the line of scrimmage, out on an island, away from most of the defense. When he catches the ball, he's 5 to 15 yards downfield. The defensive linemen and the linebackers, he's beyond them. He's out in space where he can move around. It's like he gets the ball at the second line of defense. After the defensive linemen have been knocked out of the way, Genty gets the ball before the defensive linemen have been knocked out of the way. The linebackers are still in play, and certainly the safeties and eventually the cornerbacks. It's just like a basic understanding of football and the difficulty of playing running back and averaging 10 yards a carry as a running back, as opposed to he's averaging 12 yards a carry as a wide receiver. One of those things is far more unprecedented than the other. He's acting like, yeah, you've seen that before. Yeah, we have seen receivers average 12 yards a catch. We've seen that. But running backs averaging 10 yards a carry, that's very, very rare. I'm not, maybe Barry Sanders did. I don't know. But I don't know. It just sounds like a guy that doesn't understand football and sounds like a guy who spent too much time around Deion Sanders and doesn't understand. A humble answer, if he really wanted the Heisman Trophy, a humble answer in that spot would do more for his case than saying, yeah, man, if I had as many touches as him, I'd do more. Well, and as it relates to, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd make an argument. Look, Travis Hunter is a rare specimen. There's no doubting his greatness at this level, but I want to make this point. As good as Travis Hunter has been, does he have a defining moment or a game this season like Ashton Genty against Oregon? Now, last I checked, Oregon's a pretty good team, it turns out. About a month and a half ago, I remember watching Genty just tear through Oregon for some long home runs. And if it wasn't for two special teams breakdowns, Boise State wins that game against the Ducks. So at that point, we're kind of trying to come together as a team. But also in terms of being like the number one threat or the only threat, say what you want about Colorado. We kind of know that they're a flawed team in certain places. But Jason, their wide receiver unit is actually one of the better ones in the country. So when they line up and they go 4 or 5 wide, empty sets, whatever, they have an elite college quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, right? Will Shepard's a big-bodied quality receiver. Jimmy Horn is a very good receiver. And so is Travis Hunter. So again, who's actually doing more with less? I would say it's that guy that runs on the blue turf.
Look, they've played two solid teams, Nebraska and Kansas State. They scored 10 points against Nebraska. You know, he had 10 catches, 110 yards against Nebraska. Sure, played a solid defensive game, I think, against Nebraska. Had a pass defense, a tackle for loss. I'm not sure if I don't think he had an interception or anything in that game because I don't think, Raiola didn't throw one. And now they play against Kansas State. They lose. He only plays a quarter and a half. And so those two games against relatively good quality opponents, does that compare to the game Genty had against Oregon? I don't think so. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate Travis Hunter. Looks like he's a really, really good player. I think if he were on if he played at Alabama, if he played at Georgia, he wouldn't be going both ways. I just don't believe it. I don't, because there'd just be more talent on the field. I'm not even sure if they really need him on offense at Colorado. Again, they didn't struggle offensively without him. It's not like their offense fell apart without him last week. So, I think Deion and his influence a net negative as it relates to Travis Hunter. Let me move on, Steve. Donald Trump says he plans to ban these transgender people from crossing over in sports. Let's watch the clip.
Up and down the ballot. How many of you are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports? Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room. And I know you have a question.
I do. By the way, excuse me, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Your question, your name and your hometown.
My name is Linda, and I'm from Milton, Georgia. Good. But originally Brooklyn, New York. I'd get that in there. My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. You look, just yesterday, they had a volleyball match. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where a person that transitioned, okay? We have to be very careful because this can terminate your political career if you say it's slightly off, all right? But transitioned from man to female and was on a volleyball. And I saw the slam. It was a slam. I never saw a ball hit so hard. Hit the girl on the head. But other people, even in volleyball, they've been permanently, they've been really hurt badly, women playing men. But you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. Physically, from a muscular standpoint, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen.
Not a big deal. I'm playing this clip, Steve, because I think this is why ESPN won't talk about this volleyball issue.
Yeah.
Listen to the reaction of the crowd. This is a very easy to understand issue that everybody gets on a gut level instinct. Like, you don't have to be very smart. You don't have to graduate at the top of your class to understand that boys and girls shouldn't be playing against each other in the same sport. And that's why ESPN won't discuss this boycott that's going on against the San Jose State team that has a boy playing on the girls' team. And Donald Trump is 1,000% right here. He just banned it, put a stop to it, but it's not being discussed because it makes leftists look really bad.
Well, again, I don't know if he could do it. I think this is something that politicians say. I don't, would this be a states' right issues? Can he really ban abortion? That thing's been kind of misinterpreted over his abortion ban from the Republicans, right? But if he could, it'd be huge.
Hold for 1 second. Hold for 1 second. Let me add a little context. Aren't a lot of these universities federally funded?
Okay, well,
now the reason why they're suing,
You're right.
They're suing on a Title IX basis. These women are suing on that because of Title IX. these universities take money from the federal government. They just cut off that money unless they get in line.
That sounds bigly, very bigly. But here's the issue, though. This is not just a gender issue. All of these issues are now political. And to a certain sect of America, politics has become religion. So now it almost becomes this dogma. And of course, but look, the thing that I like what Don did there, the Don, as I like to call him, is the fact he's showing that whatever your political ideology or belief is, that common sense is something that you would hope 95% of our populace can find a middle ground on. Like, just my opinion is, if you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, hardcore liberal, or right-winger, you would think that there's an intersection where we think men should play against men, and boys should be boys, and girls should be girls, and women should play against women. I like the messaging that he's giving. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but he's saying, hey, I'm the common sense guy. That lady over there, Cam the chameleon, she's the radical. That's what she represents.
No question about it. Hey, Steve, I think you pointed this out to me because I'm blocked from Jemele Hill's tweets.
I got a screenshot a lot of those for you, by the way.
Yeah, I'm blocked from Jemele Hill's tweets, but Jemele Hill tweeted out something about Caitlin Clark's golf swing. Do we have the video of Caitlin Clark's golf swing? I think we do. Yeah, her golf swing, and she's talking about playing on some pro-am or whatever, and yeah, she's some sort of terrific golfer. And so Jemele Hill, the former ESPN political operative, whatever, she tweeted out, "I finally found a reason to hate Caitlin Clark. She's got a smooth swing and is an excellent golfer. This is simply unfair. Let me go shoot my 110. So Jemele Hill pretending like she didn't already hate Caitlin Clark, and it's this golf swing. It's some kind of. She hates Caitlin Clark, just like all the rest of them. Anyway. Your thoughts on how disingenuous this tweet is?
Well, Jemele Hill, she is what she is. She's not going to change. So she finally found something to hate about her. Look, she was part of the chorus. And this is the great thing about Twitter and having smartphones. You could screenshot a lot of things. The revisionist history that this group of ladies, that a lot of them are employed by ESPN, I don't think she is anymore, or cover the WNBA. Look at what they were saying during the first 10 games of Caitlin Clark's rookie season. I guarantee you there is somebody out there, an enterprising YouTuber, that probably has, as they say, longer receipts than CBS. I mean, those things are long, right? And probably like a guy like Uncut Hoops, who does a great basketball channel. Shout out to you, Uncut Hoops. Please come out with that video. And look, Shannon Sharp has made light of it that, hey, you guys were the biggest detractors. I mean, I'm still seeing some retrospective videos. Jason, there was a time, it wasn't that long ago, they were pushing the agenda that Caitlin Clark was not the rookie of the year. I don't think it was even ever that close. Okay, and don't take my word for it. I don't watch the games, but the people that do will tell if you break down the numbers, you look at the play, you look at the overall impact, it was never a race. It was a manufactured storyline based on a very, very dishonest agenda pushed by people like Jemele Hill.
And it continues, and there were the revisionist history, because Caitlin Clark yesterday was named to the All WNBA first team. I think she was named on 66 of the 67 ballots, either first or second team. So there's still that one person out there. The person that wouldn't give her Rookie of the Year, I would imagine, is the person that wouldn't give her first or second team All-NBA. And so I'm circling, again, all the way back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. They got a white girl problem in the WNBA. They don't want a white star, a white savior, a white face of the league. And it is Caitlin Clark. And yes, they are trying to backpedal and pretend like they like Caitlin Clark. But in reality, they don't. And it goes back to, I'm thinking about, they've got this 3-on-3 league they're doing during the offseason called Unrivaled or whatever, which I think is going to be a joke and a disaster. But they're doing it, trying to give these women an opportunity to make more money during the offseason. I think Angel Reese is playing in it. Maybe this is her side hustle so she can afford her rent. I'm not sure. But it goes back to my point of they need a rival 5-on-5 league that's comfortable with Caitlin Clark being the face of that league. It is now the perfect time for someone to invest in something beyond the WNBA. They don't want this woman as the face of the league. She's their cash cow. She's putting them on the map. They hate her. And all the corporate media, including the Wall Street Journal, are in on the hate. I look at all of this and just go back to Caitlin Clark needs her own league. If I think it's Brianna Stewart and Nafisia Collier that have started this unrivaled 3-on-3 deal, which again will be a disaster. I think TNT's thrown some money behind it. Someone needs to throw some money behind a 5-on-5 league with Caitlin Clark and just move on from the WNBA. People think I'm joking when I'm saying that, but I'm telling you, this is just more proof.
The CBA, the Caitlin Basketball Association. Now, Jason, there's barely enough good players that are compelling enough for one women's league. Now, let me get this. You want to create another one? Really? Oh, Jay, no. This is what she should do, old Caitlin. Get your handicap down to 0, join the LPGA, and play with all those Asian women. They won't hate you as much. Or go to Europe where they pay well. That's the more realistic thing. We don't need another women's basketball league, Whitlock. Come on. Really?
Yes, we do, because trust me, all of these fake hating ass Shaniquas, as you say, excuse my language.
No, there's no fake hate there. It's real hate.
Yeah, I used the word ASS and I didn't mean to.
To Cuban and all of the folks on Shark Tank, and I think you're going to get 5 passes.
If Mark Cuban's one of these transitioning people, so I know he wouldn't hop on board with it. But I'm telling you, I'm not wrong here. This Caitlin Clark, because all of these players that are talking all this smack, they're going to jump on board with Caitlin Clark. They're going to move to her league. They can do all that complaining they want. They want the attention. Dejanay Carrington and Nylisa Smith, they'll bring their relationship to the Caitlin Clark league. They're addicted to Caitlin Clark attention. Do you know how thin the line is between love and hate? It's the thinnest line in America. And the people hating her are actually the people that love her and want the attention. They just don't want to give her the credit for it. I won that argument.
I can hear Kevin O'Leary saying, "There's no cash flow. There's no cash flow."
Finally, Steve, I want to show you this clip. Mad Dog Russo got upset and was yelling and screaming and ranting, and Kamala Harris yesterday got upset and was ranting at Brett Baer. And so the question is, who's the real mad dog here? Chris Russo or Kamala Harris? I'm sorry. Let's play the clip.
He's on the Manning cast. He's on radio shows. He's on Let's Go with Jim Gray. He's doing CW11 football. Bill Parcells, he's on McAfee, getting paid $1 million a year, but he's on McAfee. And then he comes out and he kills Woody Johnson this week about the Jets. Hey, Bill, calm down. I was in the building.
He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
All right, so Mad Dog Russo's yelling about Bill Belichick, and Kamala Harris is yelling about Don Trump. Who's the real Mad Dog here, Kamala or Chris Russo?
Well, first of all, shout out and a salute to the Mad Dog, Chris Russo. That is a pioneer and a legend, and he's staying in character. And I find him to be much, much, much more authentic and knowledgeable about the subject matter than Cam, the cosplaying chameleon. Shout out to Pink Book Lessons. There's nothing authentic about her. I got to give the BB gun Brent Baer credit. He shot some bullets there. I thought he did a great job. We were all a little bit afraid that he'd go soft, but he got right. And when they played that clip, that video clip, oh, man. Ooh, that got awkward. I thought he did a hell of a job, and I just find her to be inauthentic and miss word salad. Get her out of here. Get her out of here.
Hold for a second. And Butter, you hop it. Did you watch the whole interview, or have you only watched highlights?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I watched mostly all of it. It was only 25 minutes. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Wasn't that long.
Did you watch? Did you watch Kamala's interview with Brett Baer?
I've seen the highlights though.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing, and I got mixed feelings because Kamala has a real low bar for me.
Yes.
And so the fact that she left the ring standing was like, oh wow. But did she really, or did she tap out? Because they're saying that the interview was supposed to go longer. She showed up 15 minutes late, and she tapped out, or 4 of her staffers tapped out. They started waving, throwing in the towel. Get us out of here. But, she didn't cry, and she didn't cackle, and that was a win for me for Kamala. Again, my bar is really, really low for her.
Okay.
I literally thought she might cry, and I thought for sure she can't help cackling at some point, but she didn't cackle, and I watched the whole interview.
It really felt like one of the first times I've seen her on camera, maybe the 60 Minutes interview, where there was actually somebody sort of taking her to task and really forcing her to come back to answer the questions. It did seem a little confrontational at times and a little aggressive, which I think is good. But I did feel that I still was never really getting the answers. It's sort of a shift of the question to another narrative. That still seemed to be in play for me.
I watched the interview, and someone had to set me straight. I think it was TJ Moe that helped me understand, because I was like, hey, Brett Baer, particularly the first 3 or 4 minutes of this interview, I was like, I think he should have told her, like, hey, I'm not going to let you just lapse into political speech. We got a short amount of time with you. We want to get to some substantive answers. And then I was like, I wish he had done that. And he was like, well, Jason, they started 15 minutes late because she showed up 15 minutes late. He didn't have time. He felt pressed for time, and so he didn't even have time to set some sort of standard or, expectations for her and what he was going to try to do. And so, I don't, late showing up, early tapping out, but I did think she survived. She didn't cry or cackle. I don't know. You guys in the chat, tell me. I know people are trashing her. Leftists are, agreeing or celebrating her and saying that, she stood up to him. I think a lot of leftists think, she kind of did the old black girl head bob a little bit and just kind of stood her ground. And she stood her ground against the racist white man in Fox News. And, she yelled at him, and they think it's a good look. I don't. It probably a little angry black womanish look, since she's claimed to be black Indian-ish woman, angry look that probably didn't work for her. Final thoughts, Steve. I'm gonna let you go. I'm sure Shemeka Michelle's got something on this Kamala.
Confucius say, the standards they set for you is what they think of you. Good day, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yep. I have a low opinion of Kamala. That is accurate. That's why I set a low standard. Thank you, Steve. We'll bring on Shemeka Michelle. Get your thoughts in the chat. X. Buffalo Bills have acquired Amari Cooper. The other, yesterday we talked a lot about Devontae Adams going to the Jets. Now Amari Cooper, who was being very effective in Cleveland with bad quarterback play, gets to play with one of the most talented QBs in football. You love this move, like this move, or just interesting move?
There was a certain guy that kept telling people Buffalo doesn't have a lot of threats outside and they need to give old Josh Allen some help. Oh yeah, that was the old Kimster here. Yeah, I love this move. Now they're hanging with Mr. Cooper, and I like this move. In fact, I love this move. Here's what Amari gives you. Production, professionalism, and consistency, and that's what they need. Look, is he the same guy that he was physically 7 years ago, athletically? No, probably not. But I looked at his numbers in Cleveland the last 2 years. He's still a guy that's going to give you 1,000 yards receiving for the most part over a 16-17 game run. He has the ability to elevate every other guy in that wide receiver room because now they're going to be counted on to play a certain role. And now you have James Cook, can hand the ball off to him, and then Josh Allen will probably not be running around like a bull in a china shop as much. Again, those routine routes where you just get the ball off on time, got to get acclimated to the system.
All right, welcome back. Shemeka, man, we went long today. What was popping in the chats? What'd you think? Oh, I'm sorry. What'd you think of Kamala's interview with Brett Baer last night? Showed up late, tapped out early. I think the excuse I just read over Twitter is she had some collard greens in the bathtub she had to get to. Your thoughts?
David Reed said she was late to prove she was black. Why
are you throwing David Reed under the bus like that? Oh my God, that's David Reed, R-E-E-D. He said that racist comment, not me, not Shemeka. Why? I don't understand why you would throw David Reed under the bus like that, Shemeka. I just don't understand why you would do that to David Reed. Go ahead. Why?
It was quite funny, though. Look, I think that she went through the entire interview with a condescending tone, like a condescending attitude, as if she felt like, how dare you ask me hard questions. And you could tell she was like irritated throughout the entire time because she wanted to be able to filibuster and beat around the bush like she usually does. And he wasn't allowing her to do that. And when he pressed her, she got angry and said, if you let me finish the question, or I was just about to answer that, Brett, if you let me talk, or like the entire thing, she wanted to do the usual Kamala and he wasn't allowing her to, which I appreciated. And then towards the end of the interview, she started with the whole, we need to turn the page and unburden. I heard some of the same things that we've been hearing the entire time, which lets us know a lot of her answers are rehearsed, and this kind of threw her off her game a little bit.
It's funny. I had a long discussion this morning about people that talk like Kamala and they want to unburden what has been done in the past. Butter lapses into Kamala talk from time to time instead of just telling me exactly what he's thinking or what he puts together word salads with big words. And did you go to an Ivy League school, Butter?
We're going to end up having a long debate on this show about our conversations because I don't see it the same way.
Did you go to an Ivy League school? I'm asking.
I was not able to get into Harvard because I had shin splints as a kid.
Where did you get all these big words? That, again, Butter sends me to I was like, spit it out, Butter. What are you trying to say? And he well, I'm constructing things with the intention of unburdening what has been done in the past.
Y'all watch Jason every day on the show here, and you know he likes to get in his points. Shemeka, sometimes when I'm on the phone with Jason, I'm not sure which way to go, and I think this criticism is a little unfounded personally.
I'm just like, get to the point. I was called someone yesterday, kid in Austin that wants to work with us, and he starts asking me all these small talk questions. He got the fourth small talk question. I was like, hey, bro, what do you want to talk about? And and sometimes that's how I have to do with Butter. It's like, hey, bro, what do you want to talk about?
Hey, I will say this, Shemeka, and then I'll let you go back there because I'm jumping in again. When you look at my text thread with Jason Whitlock on my phone, I have these long boxes of information, that are my text, and then I look at Jason's answers, and they're one word. And then it's me with a big long box, and it's Jason with one word. So maybe there's some truth to this.
There you go. All these Ivy League guys.
I will say that Jason will cut you off mid-thought. And all right, I'm done. Click. And it's like, I wanted to say something else.
No. See, when you get a good Ball State education, they don't burden you with a bunch of language that's useless. And so I don't know a lot of words, so I don't use a lot of words. I get right to the point.
Okay.
I keep it very simple. Anyways, what was popping in the chat?
Well, first of all, the chat was like WWE. So we should have talked about Vince McMahon today because it was so many arguments going on in the chat about every subject that you talked about today. It was just a lot of back and forth. But I'm going to start with some Butter praise, and I think it's perfect for what you were just saying with his big words, because Robert said Butter is the only one with sense. Someone NTN Rocket 1 says Butter is the mastermind of the show. Mr. Terrible
It's
came
about
and said
time.
Butter is cooking. So maybe you're right, Jason. Maybe it seems as if Butter went to Ivy League because apparently in the chat he was getting all the love today. They think he's the smartest, and they love it when you actually turn and ask Butter a question and let him speak. So there it is. Butter is the mastermind of the show. But I will
put the Butter
say,
box on for the rest of this segment. Get the Butter box going, Justin. All right.
Thank you to my people out there.
Go ahead, Shemeka. There we go. Much
I
better.
will
Go ahead,
say,
Shemeka.
the best part of the chat today was when David said he was blessed with big legs and a big booty. And all we saw in the chat was pause, 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 pause. And I was thinking, what did I just hear? But the chat, everything went to pause, right, one after the other. So, that was funny. Now, there is something, Jason, that I would like to address in reference to you because I got a couple of questions or comments myself. And John says, I can't see how Shemeka supporting this guy much longer with him trying to hate on Black women so much. And then someone else asked me if I got offended with your snow bunny obsession. And so I just want to say,
that's a long list of people offended by that. Anyway, I'm sorry for cutting you. Go ahead.
So I just want to say, when it comes to trying to hate on Black women, I never see it like that. I see it as you talking about someone in particular, and maybe they happen to be Black. So I never really I don't own that criticism. I don't feel like it's to me. I don't feel like I should feel offended if you say something about a Black woman, just as if someone says, oh, Halle Berry is beautiful. I'm not saying, thank you so much. You're talking about us all, and so it bothers me when people feel like when they hear something negative and it's concerning someone Black, that every Black person is supposed to own it, and I don't. And when it comes to whether I'm offended by your snow bunny obsession, listen, I have self-esteem. Self-esteem is admiration for oneself. It is not based on the opinion of other people. And I think in society now, we've gotten so caught up with social media that we look to other people to tell us who we are. I know who I am. And so regardless of how you feel about white women or Black or anything, I have self-esteem, admiration for me. And nothing anyone says, good or bad, changes that. It's about how I feel about myself. So I want everybody to learn what self-esteem is and really start to have some and not be looking outward to figure out how you feel about you. So
let me just add that it for years in Kansas City, you know, y'all heard me talk about the nickname Big Sexy. I had another nickname as well. Not as popular, but people that knew me called me Frosty. Frosty the Snowman. So we will end on that note. I'm done. I've got myself in enough trouble. You guys hating in the chat, forget you. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Freedom, looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation, we all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone, I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back, we are receiving, all deceiving, we all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be, I just want